Okay.
Okay. Hi, everyone. Thank you so much for coming for our workshop on the COLL curriculum. We have the wonderful Miss Gail Williams from the Office of Academic Advising to give a short PowerPoint and answer any questions that you have about the COLL curriculum because it can be a bit confusing. And so if you want to watch this later, our recording will be on the YouTube some point this weekend. And so, yeah, I'll give it away to Miss Gail Williams. Thank you so much.
Everyone, thank you for taking time out of your schedule to get some information on the COLL curriculum, so I can demystify what the COLL curriculum is all about. So when you all are ready to choose your classes, you can choose it knowing that you've gotten the information that will help you navigate this curriculum throughout your semesters. Okay, so let's see. Okay. So the COLL curriculum is made up of the COLL 100, the COLL 150, COLL 200, COLL 300, 400, 350, which has just been added in, and the COLL 400. So I'll go through and break down what each of those are and how you can navigate registering for them. And it kind of basically tells you what each of those COLL courses represent, right? This is the swoop that they have, which gives you a really easy snapshot of what those courses are. Okay. So again, like I said, we just broke it down. And then we have the knowledge domain, which is also part of the COLL curriculum. And that creates a lot of confusion for students. So I'll break it down so that it's less confusing. I think because I'm sharing my screen, as y'all can see, the COLL 100 and 150 are both 4 credits each, right? And we tell students who are coming in during the summer when they take the COLL curriculum, COLL studies course, that they should take 1 in each semester. It doesn't matter in what order, but not to take 2 of those because they're very challenging courses and we don't want students overwhelming themselves with it. Some students who were not able to get one or the other can do so in the spring semester, right? Students will get a special registration window to register for one or the other who did not get one in their fall schedule because there wasn't enough courses available. And so I also tell the students to don't worry about being behind because you're not going to be behind. Students are going to be able to graduate regardless, okay? The COLL 200, typically people are, you may have heard people say, you take the first one in your second year. That's what they say, but you can take a COLL 200 at any time. The numbers doesn't necessarily mean the level of coursework. That's just how they numbered the course. So you may find a COLL 200 that has a 300 number in front of it. So that's one of the things to let students know that the course number doesn't determine the level of intensity of the course, right? The COLL 300, now there's a lot of different ways students can do that, okay? And they can typically tend to take a COLL 300 in their junior year, but going forward, if a student finds one that they want to add to their schedule and it's a manageable course for them, then you can take it, right? The COLL 350, you can take anytime, okay? COLL 400 is typically in your senior year because it's part of your senior capstone. And the neat thing about the COLL 400, a lot of times students can grab a COLL 400 in their major requirement that has the COLL 400 attribute attached to that major requirement course. So we'll talk about the 2-for-1, okay, as we go through. And then we have the domain electives. And of course, we know the proficiencies that students have to take, which kind of talks about your core requirements for graduation. okay? So we talked about the COLL 100. And what does that do? It teaches the student how to think and how to create communication in ways other than writing, right? And depending on what the professor is, what their COLL 100 course topic is, they determine what that could look like for the students. Okay, the COLL 150, it helps the students develop their written communication skills. It's a very intense course, and it takes a lot of time. And so that's one of the reasons why we say don't take both in the same semester, okay? And a lot of times they have some really neat topics with these courses, and students fall in love with the subject. And then they decide, oh, I might want to major in X, Y, and Z, okay? Like I said, you can take one in the fall, one in the spring, and then continue to move forward. One of the things with those COLL courses, you have to pass it with a C minus or better. And some students have gone on and failed their COLL, which means they have to retake it. And that's okay, life happens, right? As long as you get to complete the course before graduation, okay? That is not a problem. So what do the domains mean? You have to take our COLL 200 in one for arts, letters, and values, one for CSI, and one NQR, okay? The courses that are attached to these attributes, sometimes they overlap. And students would ask, well, if I take a course and it has an ALV attribute and a CSI attribute, will I get both of those requirements fulfilled with the one course? The answer is no, in this sense, but we'll talk about how you can overlap up to three courses under the COLL curriculum. Okay, so we'll talk about that later. Now, in some instances, you may be able to, if you're lucky, find a course that has an ALV attribute, which is the humanities type, and it may also have the attribute for the arts proficiency. In that case, you will be able to get 2 for 1. So if you find a course that has an ALV, probably an ALV knowledge domain, it may not have a ALV C200 in front of it, but if it has an ALV knowledge domain attribute and it has the arts proficiency attribute as well, you will be able to get those 2 requirements fulfilled at the same time. So some students get lucky. I don't know if it works for the NQR, but again, if you find an NQR knowledge domain course, and it has the math attribute, I don't think there's too many out there. I would have to scan the open course list. Then in that case, you may get a 2 for 1 as well, okay? Those are the only 2 times it will apply, okay? And with the new COLL 350, there's some more information attached to that as we go through it. I don't want to get ahead of myself. Okay. Talking about the points of confusion, which I just mentioned. COLL 200 courses, at least one anchored in the domain. Previously, when the COLL curriculum started, students, and you all are probably in this category, had to complete 12 credits of COLL 200 courses, right? And you ended up with a duplicate of one of those. So you may have had either 2 ALV, an NQR, and a CSI for a total of 12, or vice versa, right? Under the new curricula, starting this fall, the students who came in fall of 2021, the curriculum has changed where going forward, students only need 9 credits of COLL 200. It made it much more simpler. So you don't have to figure out the extra COLL 200 hanging out there. So you need 1 in each, right? Because they introduced the COLL 350, okay? Now, we talked about the knowledge domain and the COLL curriculum, the C200. Students will get confused because they're like, well, I already took an ALV. So can that ALV count for my knowledge domain as well? No, it can only count for one. So you end up having to take two courses that has ALV attributes to it, and two NQR and two CSI attributed courses. The difference, and I might be getting ahead of myself, the knowledge domains courses to fulfill that requirement does not have to have the C200 in front of it. If you get one and you want it to fulfill your knowledge domain, that's perfectly fine. But those knowledge domain courses don't have to have the C200 in front of it. Only the COLL 200 courses must have the C200 in front of it, okay? Just to be clear, and I can clarify that, okay? Myself. Okay. The COLL 350 is the new course that got introduced starting fall of this fall. Okay. You can take those anytime. And basically the COLL 350, the college decided is something that students need to have because it examines social norm, institutional practices, belonging and marginalizing by exploring, I think some of my things are cutting off, by exploring race and at least one other key social category, including but not limited to class, disability, ethnicity, gender expression, gender identity, immigration status, language, religion, sex, and sexual orientation. So the committee, the Educational Policy Committee, felt that it was necessary to introduce a course like this into the curriculum based on everything that's going on, and it will help the students identify and understand more of what's going on. So I think this is really a win-win, okay? Now, the caveat to this COLL 350 is that it may be applied to COLL 100 courses, COLL 150 courses, COLL 200 courses, 300 or 400, right? So there's a lot of leeway with this. Students who take such courses will earn credit towards both requirements. That's for right now, starting this fall. That will change when catalog year 2025-26 comes into play. So the word on the street is the sooner you can get that course completed, you will definitely get a 2-for-1. Okay. So that's a good thing. Okay, we talked about the COLL 400. And again, most majors have COLL 400 courses option tied to a major requirement for the COLL, for the capstone, for the student's capstone. So when you get to that point, if you have options where you can take a COLL, take your major requirement capstone course, and it has a COLL 400 attribute, you're getting a 2-for-1 as well. Okay. And I think most majors now have an option where they have a COLL 400 being carried into the major requirement as well. And if they don't, then the student will work with their major advisor and the department chair to generate a course that they may be able to get a 2-for-1. If you can't, then you have to take both. You have to take a course for your capstone, and you have to take a COLL 400 to meet that requirement. Okay. This is what I was talking about with the overlapping. A maximum of 3 COLL courses can count towards both the COLL requirement and a major requirement, a minor requirement, or sometimes, like I mentioned, you can get a course that has an ALV that can also count for your arts proficiency. So when you're going about looking to see how many, which courses you can add to your schedule that can give you a 2-for-1, you have to make sure you only are able to count it 3 times. Now, one of the things that, one of the questions I get from students completing their COLL requirements is because students aren't very excited about the NQR courses because it's mainly math or science based. So they really don't want to take more than 2 if they don't have to, right? Because nobody is jumping up and down, to take a math or a science course unless they're a math major or a science major or pre-med or something like that. So they would say, well, Ms. Williams, I don't want to take another NQR. So the 2 NQR that's showing up on my account is being counted for my COLL 200 requirements under the 12 credit requirement, right? Can I get one of those to count for my knowledge domain? And DegreeWorks is not smart enough to do that for you. So in that case, I would recommend to the student to email Ms. Wendy Urbano in the registrar's office to let her know, can one of those NQR that's being counted twice for the 12 credits of COLL 200 can be counted for their knowledge domain NQR. And then students are quite happy to take a second CSI or a second ALV because it's not math or science based. And that makes perfect sense. So that's something to keep in mind, because DegreeWorks will move things around based on because it's not intuitive where it can do that for you. So if you're looking at your DegreeWorks, which is your graduation checklist, and I recommend students check it every time before and after they register for classes and after each semester to see where your courses are landing and making sure it's landing in the right place. So if there's anything that looks out of whack, we can address it with the registrar's office. And Ms. Wendy Urbano is very helpful. Well, they all are, but she is super nice and she responds to students' questions like really fast. So she's definitely a gem. Let's see. Okay, and of course we all know about the proficiencies, right? Foreign language. That's one of the things we tell students, to get that in front of you before you become a junior or senior, and then you're having to stress about getting this requirement done. And the thing because of that, you need 4 semesters if you're coming in without any prior foreign language, right? And so you have to do them in sequence, and they're very intense courses. So when you're planning your schedule, you have to be prepared to make room for that amount of academic involvement with those foreign language, right? So you just have to get that in your mind and get it out the way. I think there's 2 languages that has the 203, the 103 and the 203. And so if you want to do that, of course, you have to prepare yourself for the intensity of those courses. Students who are coming in with partial foreign language, depending on when they took their last foreign language class, that could be quite challenging, because we know that if you're not using the material, you lose it, right? So if you haven't been practicing this language, like you're like, I don't know how to do X, Y, and Z, and how am I going to do that? So that's when we would tell the students to see if they can reach out to the department to see if they can go back a year or some if they're ready to do the 202 because they've completed 101, 102, and 202 at 101, 102, 201, and they need the 202 to see if they can fall back one of those levels to get a refresher. So that's my recommendation to the students, to work with the foreign language department to see if they will be able to let them do that. And sometimes if the student takes a placement test, it may put them in a higher level than they are ready to take on. If you find yourself in that situation, make sure you address it before the add drop period is over. Because once the add drop period is over, you can't get out of the class unless you have enough credits to withdraw. But then you don't want to do that, because then you'll still have to find a way to complete your requirement. Okay, so don't let that stop you from moving forward with what it is you need to do, because everybody's situation is a little different, right? And the same with the math as well. We talked about the math and the science with the NQR. If you find one that can give you both, that's a win-win. I'm not sure which course that may be, but you would have to look through the open course list and see how you can navigate that. And getting that out the way too is earlier than later is good. The creative and performing arts, a lot of students coming in, depending on if they get it on their schedule early, because these classes get filled up really fast. Public speaking, creative writing, all of those are good courses to fulfill that requirement. So the soonest you can get that out the way, it's definitely a win-win, because what will happen is juniors and seniors can't take the creative and, well, when they try to get into the creative writing and the public speaking classes to fulfill their arts requirement, the professors typically won't let them in because it's for freshmen or sophomores, right? And so for whatever reason, juniors and seniors found themselves without completing their creative and performing arts, and then they're looking for a way to do that. There's other courses that has the attribute as well, but those courses are usually the go-to for freshmen and sophomores, right? And if I'm a junior or a senior and I'm like, whoa, I need to get this done, and I'm trying to get into a creative writing class or public speaking class, and I have the professor telling me, no, I can't, then I'm just all out of whack, right? And we've had students who found themselves in that situation. And the bottom line is you have to get it done. So they end up having to take another course that they weren't planning on taking. But I'm saying all that to say, the earlier you can get it out the way, the better it would be for you. And there's other courses that you can take besides those, like dance, like 2 credits in dance and different things like that, art and different things like that. Okay. Okay, ooh, that was fast. So, questions?
So yeah, I have a question. So like, I'm a junior right now. Does the call 350 count towards me now as a junior, or is that applied to incoming freshmen now?
That was only social class 2025 that just came in this fall, and some 2024 if there were a transfer. So yeah, if you didn't come in the fall of this year, it doesn't apply to you. However, if you do a what if on DegreeWorks, students are emailing me to say, Ms. Williams, why am I seeing this COLL 350 on my DegreeWorks? Well, when you do a DegreeWorks, it pulls from the current catalog. So because it's new and it's in the current catalog, it'll show up on a what if in DegreeWorks. Okay, so if you guys have any friends that are saying, hey, why is this showing up in my DegreeWorks? It's because they did a what if. And what if is very popular when you're trying to decide which major you're trying to go after, or if you can do a minor or whatever, and you do a what if, it'll pull that in. So just keep that in mind, and you can share it with your peers that if you do a what if, they will see a 350 COLL 350 course on there, but it's not for them, it's for the incoming class that came in this fall 2021.
Thank you. Any more questions, guys? I know that I think Isabella had a question. She had, I don't know, Isabella, can you talk more about your question? I know it says, does this include the COLL 400, but I'm not sure what you meant by that question.
Yeah, I can stop sharing my screen.
I was just asking about whether or not the rule about how you can only have 3 COLL classes overlapping between your major requirements and your COLL requirements, that includes like the COLL 400, which like has to be in our major, right?
Yes, that includes the COLL 400 as well. Yes.
And that doesn't include just the knowledge domain requirements that aren't C200s?
So the knowledge domain, yes, because that's part of the COLL curriculum, right? And it has those attributes. So that will be part of that overlap, that 3 courses overlapping as well.
Okay, thank you so much.
Sure.
So another question I have, this is more like a personal question. So like I'm a junior, so I've completed after this semester, I'm pretty sure I complete with every requirement set my call 400. So like, am I required to take the call 400 next semester? Or can I wait until my last semester, senior year, to take that last requirement of the call curriculum?
Sure, you can do that. Yeah, it's whenever you want to add it to your schedule, and knowing what is going to be required of you for that course, because you're going to research it obviously to decide when you want to put it on your schedule, then you can plan accordingly how to build your schedule around it.
Okay.
So yeah, does that make sense?
Yeah, thank you.
Sure. So do we have some new freshmen with us now?
I don't know. I think our exec board is mostly sophomores and
Okay.
juniors, and then I think Isabella and Mr. Z might be freshmen, but I'm not sure. I'm guessing at
Okay.
this point.
Okay, because I was going to ask how you know, from when they came in the summer, having to register for part of their credits, and now that they've completed registration and we're going into the fourth week of classes, how comfortable are you with your knowledge of the COLL curriculum when you first started till now that you've registered for courses?
Yeah, that's a really good question. Isabella or Mr. Z, would you be willing to maybe try to answer this question? Oh, let's see.
Okay.
Good. Yeah, she said I understand it better now that I've gone to a few presentations. That's good.
That's good. And I'm glad that you guys asked for us to do this, because it definitely, now that they're moving at a different pace than coming in as a freshman, trying to get all of this, navigate all of the things that were required of a freshman, now they can slowly absorb it. And each time there's a registration, like you guys are going to be registering for spring semester coming up in November, there's always questions, because sometimes your mind plays a trick on you and you're like, okay, is this the way I can approach this situation, or do I need to clarify? And we still get questions all the time. So it's a never ending cycle of trying to confirm how your credits can be applied based on the course that you're registering for. Does that make sense? Yeah.
Yeah, there's another question in the chat. Mr. Z is asking, what is a what if on DegreeWorks?
That's a good question. And that is something that I wish a lot more students will learn about. And it is so helpful. And I have to share with you guys, sometimes I get students who may be juniors and they had no idea of what a what if is. Okay, so a what if is a tool that's on your DegreeWorks. DegreeWorks is a very useful tool. It's your graduation checklist. I can't stress that enough. It should become your best friend, because you will see what is required of you as you go through your registration and your semesters. Okay, it gives you the number of credits you need, the number of credits you completed, the number of credits you're in the progress of completing. And when you use a what if, it shows you what your requirements would look like if you're considering, say, for instance, public policy as a major. So you do a what if and say, what major am I looking for? Public policy. What would public policy look like if I declare public policy? It'll give you all the options that belongs to the public policy major. It'll give you core requirements. It'll give you the electives. So you can see and you can start building out what your schedule is going to look like all the way through graduation. Okay. If you're contemplating doing a major or minor, you can use the what if tool to look to see what your major requirement will look like, depending on what major you want to declare, what your minor requirement would look like if that's what you want to do. Okay. Some students want to do a double major, which we try to steer them away from because it just becomes quite challenging for some people. Some can do it no problem. Others, it could be a struggle. But if that's something that students want to pursue, you can do a what if to say, what is government and environmental science and policy would look like, or the environmental science track, which is only a secondary major. So you can only take that major if you have a primary major, okay? But it'll show you what it looks like, okay? Some students may be interested in IR. That major is very broad because there's a lot of choices you have in there for electives, and there's a lot of requirements. I think it's a 37 credit major. So you definitely want to look to see what is it going to take? How are my semesters gonna look if I'm going to pursue that major? And then you can start planning. So that's what the what if tool is about. Additionally, in DegreeWorks, you can do an audit of your planned courses that you're looking to register for in the future, okay? And sometimes it works with DegreeWorks and sometimes it's a little quirky. So keep in mind, if DegreeWorks doesn't give you a good read of what you think it should give you, then come and see one of us and we'll, work it through and talk it through for you. Because sometimes the what if is a little bit off, again, because it's not very intuitive because it's programmed a certain way. So it's always good to get a second opinion. The other thing you can use DegreeWorks for is to create your semester academic registration plan. So we know registration is coming up in November. You guys can go in there, use the plans tab and create your academic plan. And then you can go back in and adjust those plans as you need to when you do registration. And then you have everything in one place. And once you're a declared major, when you do an audit, it shows you how those courses are going to be fulfilling your requirements. So it's really a good tool to learn how to navigate. Mm-hmm.
There's also another question. Will an audit show us, let me read it again. Will an audit show us if a class will satisfy two different requirements?
Yeah, sometimes it does. Sometimes it does, but not all the time. Sometimes DegreeWorks will throw you a curveball and then you're like, well, I know it's supposed to be doing this, but why isn't it doing it for me? Because sometimes the registrar's office has to go in and do a manual adjustment. So if you know for a fact, like these two courses is going to give me this, but when you do the DegreeWorks audit and it's not lining up correctly, sometimes that's when Ms. Urbano will go in and do a manual adjustment once you email her to say, hey, Ms. Mott, this is what's supposed to be happening, but DegreeWorks is not showing me that. So she'll go in and fix it.
Yeah. Could you also talk a little bit more about like academic advising and how they can help students on campus, specifically FGLI students?
Oh, absolutely. So our office is like it's the hub between the faculty advisors and the students. We are there to advise any student throughout their academic journey, freshmen, sophomore, juniors, seniors. And we know the sophomores are in a unique position because they're supposed to meet with their pre-major advisor 3 times in their first year. And then after that, you know, it's like, okay, well, they said, who do I talk to? Well, that person is still technically your pre-major advisor, but you're getting ready to transition into declaring your major. And some students don't ever reconnect with their pre-major advisor because they're in that window. And so what we try to reach out to sophomores to let them know, you guys can come see us like anytime throughout your journey, but especially when you find yourself in that window where you're trying to decide what major you want to declare or how the process works. So, but again, we're there for any student at any time throughout their journey. We will be available to take appointments and meet with you guys for different reasons. When when it's time for registration, we get a lot of students making appointments because it's registration time, right? They have an idea and they want to clarify it. And sometimes students just need a sounding board. And we're there to say, yep, you're on track, or they want to graduate early and they want to see how they can navigate that. Will they be able to do that? What would their semesters look like? So we can create an academic plan or help them build an academic plan to show them exactly where the numbers are going to fall and is it manageable and is it doable, right? So those are the things we help students with, helping them to learn how to find a major advisor, because that's the other thing. You're coming in undeclared and we're saying to you, well, you have to find your own major advisor. That's what students at William and Mary get to do. And they're like, well, I haven't taken a class with anybody in that department, so who do I contact? Each department has a website and all the faculty advisors are listed on there and they all have a bio. So I recommend to the students, go to the website, check out their bio, see which one you want to connect with, send them an email because that's what they're there for. They're happy when students come and want to declare a major in their department, right? So they will be more than happy to say yes. And then you guys connect whichever way, whether it's Zoom or in person now that we're doing in person, and you fill out your major declaration form. And that's another good reason to use the what if tool when you're doing your major declaration form, because it gives you the option for that major on the DegreeWorks when you do a what if. You can also get it from the department's website as well to give you the breakdown of what the requirements are. But I think DegreeWorks gives you a better job of showing you how to fill out your major declaration form so it mirrors what the website may look like. And then other things too, like doing workshops. We collaborate with the Career Center, the Dean of Students office. Students come to us if they're in a path where they are finding challenges. We help them move forward and navigate academic strategies to help them get back on track, because life happens, right? And sometimes things may not be going the way you want them to. So we try to get the student to show them different roadmaps of how to get back on track and be successful, and how to pick courses to help them navigate whatever situation they're in at different times. And we also answer questions for the faculty when they have questions from their advisees.
Okay, it is nearing 8 now. And I think that we got to all the questions in the chat. So thank you guys so much for coming, and thank you again, Ms. Gail Williams. It was so nice to have you give this presentation. Definitely very helpful and gave some insight into things. And just to be clear, the Office of Academic Advising is great if you ever need any help with absolutely anything. Like even talking to Dr. Pasco, I know I've asked him like 100 of questions, just like, who should I talk to about this? And so it's like even things that aren't related to academics, I talk to them about. And so it's great. And so thank you again for giving this wonderful presentation, and the recording will be up on our YouTube this weekend. So thank you all so much for coming, and yeah. See you later then.
Great. And if you guys need to reach me, my email is